Okay, hello, welcome back you guys. So this video is going to be very long, letting you guys know right away, and I'll probably be going on a lot of tangents. So if those are two things you do not like about my channel, you will not enjoy this video. Go away. And the reason I'm saying that is because this video, even though predominantly it will be a book review to a book I just finished, it's also going to bring in aspects of politics and social norms and things I like talking about as well when it comes to my channel. So this video is going to have a whole bunch of different things going on. Did I say channel or video? Alright, so let's get into it. First thing, so the book we are talking about is called A Place for Wolves by Kosoko Jackson. And the first thing I want to do is a quick disclaimer, and I want to say that this book is actually not available. It was never officially released. The copy that I have is an advanced reader's copy, and it never managed to get all the way to real printing because people were saying that the novel was overall too problematic, and the author and whoever was financing it decided to not go ahead with the release, which would have been on my birthday this year, 2nd of April. So, yeah. Really quick, I wanted to say the reason I was interested in reading it was prior to even it being said that it was going to be problematic, or that they said that they're not going to allow it. There's another booktuber. Her name is CC Reads, I think is her handle, and she is always really aware of what new gay, lesbian, trans books are coming out. As I mentioned several times in my videos, I'm always looking for good gay and lesbian literature and trans literature, because I do think that there is a great lack of it. And she said that she was looking forward to this release. I actually think she also had an advanced reader's copy. And the reason it really attracted me was because I was like, okay, it's between the two main characters are a gay couple, and it takes place in Kosovo. And I was just in Kosovo maybe 4 months ago now. And for those of you guys who watch any of my travel guide videos or anything, I really I don't know why, but even though I wasn't necessarily blown away by Kosovo or Albania, there's something about that culture and that just really intrigues me, and their history is really interesting, and I think the men there are, like Albania, Greece, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, like that whole kind of corner of the world is just, for me, like creme de la creme, at least in terms of appearance, what I find attractive in men. So anyway, when I was like, wow, that's weird, like a gay romance novel taking place in Kosovo, was really interested. Then when I went to order it, I realized, oh, that's weird, I can't order it. And that's when I started going into it and reading about it, and it turns out that because of the problematicness of the novel, it was actually not going to be released. Which, in my head, because I one time was really also interested in books that are banned, in my head kind of translated to A, this book is banned, and B, it kind of bothered me in terms of, because I'm such an advocate of freedom of speech, and saying a book is not allowed to be published because it's problematic, to me is only one step above burning a book or impeding on someone's freedom of speech. I'm like, no matter how problematic a book is, it should be allowed to be published, and it should be available to people to read and to think about and to contemplate over. So then I was even more into the idea of getting this book, and after a lot of going back and forth and trying all these different methods, I managed to get my hands on one of the few advanced reader copies, and I finished it yesterday, and now I want to talk about it. All right. And I promise there will be some political discussion of this too, for those of you who are not interested in book reviews, because of what I read in here. I kind of want to, I will be pulling in little aspects of things in terms of my political stance and some of the things I've been talking about in my previous videos. So, very quick, the synopsis of this book is there is a Black American teenager whose family works for USAID, and they are working in Kosovo right when the Kosovo War is about to start, and when it actually does start. And so the young Black American teenager, he is one of the main characters, and the other main character is a gay Brazilian boy, same age, I think, approximately, and his parents are also in Kosovo as engineers. I don't think they really ever said why their parents were there. Anyway, and then they fall in love, and then the war happens, and they have to face all these hardships trying to get out of Kosovo in a time of war. All right? The premise itself, for me, is like, all right. And so here's the thing. Like I said, I was really bothered because a lot of people were saying, oh, this book is Islamophobic, and this book is this, and this book is that, and it's problematic, and I'm glad that it's not getting published. And I right away was kind of like, okay, I need to read this for myself, because I'm generally not somebody who is quick to be like, oh, things are problematic. I'm not somebody who's easily offended. I'm not somebody who's very snowflakey and is going to be like, oh my God, oh, they said a mean thing about somebody here. And so I really was like, I want to read this book, and I want to see if it's actually problematic or if people are just being really overly sensitive, as I think a lot of times we are in society nowadays. Can I put this book down now? I am. So, well, it turns out I read the book, and the only positive thing I can say about it is the relationship between James and Thomas was written very well. You really kind of got a sense that they loved each other, and it was a healthy relationship, and that was done really well. But I have to agree, otherwise this novel was very, very problematic. As far as, I don't really like using that word. So, right away I have a problem with the setting. So, we're in Kosovo, and the two main characters are not from that country. They both talk about how much they dislike the country, how ugly the country is, how it's backwoods and stupid, and they don't like their life there, and they wish they could just not be in that country. And I actually have to say, you know what? I'm not necessarily bothered by that in and of itself, because I mean, in my travels, I've gone to countries and I was like, oh, I didn't like it there. And I actually can appreciate somebody being honest, saying, I don't like this place. I didn't think it was a beautiful place. I didn't like it, whatever. And I'm kind of like, okay, I can appreciate your honesty. But I do have to question, why would you, as an author, choose to put your characters in a country that you think is ugly? So like that already, I just found it an odd thing to do. I'm just kind of like, you know, it's different if you were forced to go somewhere for work or whatever, or, you know, you've never been to that country and you don't know any better, and you go there and then you're like, I don't really like it. I mean, like, that's a different scenario than just, I don't know. So that in itself I thought was really weird. Also, the person who wrote this book, Kosoko Jackson, I'm very confused because the Kosovo War starts. And for those of you guys who don't really know a lot about like Yugoslavia coming apart and becoming all these separate countries, there was a lot of conflicts and wars in that region in the late 90s because all the different people, you know, Croatians, Serbians, Albanians, Macedonians, I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, and Bosnians, you know, they were all trying to figure out how much land are they going to get and all this kind of stuff. But if you look into any historical account, the main aggressors in all of the conflicts were the Serbians. The Serbians were the main aggressors against the Albanians, against the Bosnians. I want to say against the Croatians too, but double check that again before. But so anyway, but then he wrote the novel. The two main characters are in Kosovo, and he wrote the novel that the Serbians were the good guys, and the main bad guy is this Albanian guy, and it's just very problematic. And then at the very, very back of the book, he wrote as about like why he wrote it like this, and he's kind of like, you know, a lot of people nowadays see Serbians as the villains in this conflict. One could argue, as seen in this book, that the Albanians are the villains based on James's experience. This decision was not made lightly and is not to change the person's mind about the genocide and who was at fault, but to show that in war there are multiple sides to every story. All Albanians were not good, all Serbians were not bad. And while that's probably true, I mean, like, there's bad and good people in every group, it's just a weird setting. More than anything, it's just a very weird setting. It's kind of like, okay, you're going to have two main characters, both not even be part of that culture. Then you're going to take the group that was historically oppressed and the ones that were trying to fight for their liberty and freedom and make them into the bad guys. It's a little bit... It's definitely a little bit problematic. I feel bad just saying that because I'm so, like, no, freedom of speech, but I do have to agree with people when they're saying this is kind of problematic. I will say, however, I do not believe, if you go on Goodreads, there's all these, like, comments, and they're saying it's Islamophobic. I do not believe it's Islamophobic. He at no point in time in the book talks about religion or anything like that, or saying that Serbians are better because they're Christians and Albanians are bad because they're predominantly Muslims or whatever. Like, so I definitely don't believe that it's Islamophobic. However, what it is 100%, and I don't like accusing people of something like this, so I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to say there's a big question mark here for me, is the book is incredibly racist. So, and not just the book. I'm actually going to put up a comment here of the comments that were even left, and I'll talk about that in a second. So you guys, I'll put the comment up, and I'll talk about that. So, actually, besides the fact that just the plot line is a little bit problematic, something that I thought was very, and this is where I'm going to start talking a little bit more politics. So, Kosoko Jackson, he's a gay black man from America. And in this book, he often mentions how he prefers dark-skinned people, and even going so far as saying that he's so glad that that Brazilian guy is there because he thinks Albanians are ugly. And I was like, again, you can have your preferences and you can have your honesty. I'm definitely always somebody who gives my honesty as far as I'm, and I've already even said that I'm generally, personally not, also not physically attracted to white men in general. I also generally prefer physically dark-skinned people, but the fact that he actually was like, Albanians are ugly, I was like, this is kind of cringeworthy. And in several, I don't know if you can see, like, I tabbed the book. It's probably not that noticeable because I did it with white. So, there's all these comments where he was kind of like, this guy acted like a typical white guy, and I don't like him because that guy's there's this one thing where there's another boy in class, and at first he's kind of like, I would say I would say he's attractive, and he's like, nah, he's not attractive. He's just a white guy, and you know how everybody likes white guys, and that's why. And there was just so many cringeworthy comments like that. And the one that really, really drove it home to me, almost at the very end, is the main character, who is also a black gay man. He is interacting with the main bad guy, who's an Albanian man, and the Albanian man is keeping this German girl as a hostage. And the reason he gives for taking this German girl hostage is this. So the reason the ransom of an ambassador's daughter, so she's the daughter of an ambassador, a beautiful, white, picture-perfect ambassador daughter. And obviously, if you haven't read the rest of the novel, you're probably going to be like, what's weird about that? But it's kind of like, I don't believe that a man from Kosovo, who is by most people in the world would be considered a white man, would say, I took this girl as a hostage because she's a beautiful white girl. That, to me, was so damn racist. I'm just like, I believe that minorities in the US, they might actually say something like that and be like, oh, that's such a typical white guy or white girl or whatever. But I'm like, we don't have that concept in Europe. And the fact that he tried to make it seem like another white person would think to kidnap a white girl and hold her for ransom inside of Europe would somehow, I can't even really formulate into words, but to me that was so offensive. And the reason this really bothers me is because I really doubt if this book had been written by a white man and he had written things like, oh, I wasn't attracted to him because he's just a regular black guy, or I'm not attracted to black people. I don't really like people who are dark skinned. I don't like Nigerians. They're ugly. No way. I mean, okay, the book ended up not being published, but not because of the racism aspect. It didn't get published because people thought the plot was problematic. And I'm like, what about the very, very obvious racism in this book? If a white man had published this book saying this kind of stuff about black people, it would have never even gone past the initial reading. Somebody would have read, like, are you crazy? We're not publishing this. This is going in the garbage. But the fact that it was written by a gay black man, and the majority or the main characters are also people of color and minority groups and gay, actually allowed this to even get to the point where there was advanced reader copies available. And I'm sorry, but there's something intrinsically wrong, I think, in a world where you can be blatantly racist against white people. I just think it's wrong to be racist. It's wrong to be racist. It doesn't matter if it's against Asian people or black people or white people or Hispanic people or whatever, Arabs, whatever it is. It's not okay to be racist. And the fact that we now live in this world where we are so sensitive about anybody saying anything derogatory about anybody, but it's a complete free-for-all. If you're straight, white, and male, then everybody has the right to take it out on you. And I just have such a problem with that. It's kind of like, this is not liberty and this is not equality. And I don't know. I was reading this book and I just couldn't believe. I was like, I can't believe this author got away with being so overtly racist. And nobody, even in the comments in Goodreads, for the few people who already read the advanced readers cover, not one person said anything about it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you say racist things against white people, it just doesn't matter. And I just have a huge issue with that. And like now I'm going to insert that little thing in because one of the people who left a comment on the Goodreads to this video, she didn't do her research and realized that Kosoko Jackson is a black man. In her comment, which I will put up here, she actually says right in the beginning that, I'm glad that Jackson came out and apologized for the insensitivity of his book, but this just proves again what white authors can get away with. And I was like, not only is the book itself racist against white people, this woman who left feedback about this book made an assumption that it is written by a white person because it's problematic. And that again is freaking racist. I mean, if there would have been the other way around, and if she had said if she had said, "Oh, typical for a black man," that would not have been socially accepted. So why is it socially accepted for her to say typical for a white man? Especially when it wasn't even a white man. This is a black man who was the author of this book. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted by the fact that this is okay in today's society. And considering that a lot of minorities are always talking about how white people have so much privilege, you know what? I think it takes a whole lot of privilege to be able to get away with blatant racism just because you're part of a minority group. This book would never even have gotten as far as it did if, like I said, if it had been written by a white heterosexual male. Never. So don't tell me that minorities don't ever have any privilege, because here is the perfect example that they do. I don't know. It was, again, and even having said this, do I think they should not be allowed to publish it and read it? No, because again, my personal viewpoint of freedom of speech is more important than necessarily my being offended by the fact that this author is a blatant racist. Well, sorry. That the author wrote the book in a way that makes me think he might be racist. I don't like actually accusing people of racism, because, especially when I don't know them, because I don't know, maybe he was writing it this way to be funny or something. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to get your guys' feedback on this. For those of you guys who got an advanced readers copies, if you read it, how you felt about it. How do you feel about people making comments like that? I'm trying to see if I can find another one. Oh, here was another one. Oh, here. In a surprising turn of events, Thomas leaned over his... Oh, okay, here we go. This is when they were actually talking about the main bad guy, who was their teacher before he became the bad guy. Bet a rule-following white boy named Thomas wouldn't stand up to a professor like that after the professor told him he wanted him to switch seats. And I was like, why did he even have to write that? What does that mean? Bet a rule-following white boy named Thomas. I'm like, why was that even written? I don't understand. Then here he says something like, because the main bad guy, the Albanian guy, he was like, it's like, how could a man from Albania manage to get into Oxford anyway? I was like, am I really reading this? I mean, he really, really went in hardcore against Albanians, which I don't really understand. I don't know if he has a personal problem with Albanians, and that's why he also chose to make the Albanians the bad guys, even though if he had done his history lesson, he would know that wasn't it. Oh, okay, here. He's writing a letter to his sister saying that now they're moving to Kosovo, and he says, "Give me something to look forward to, knowing I'm going to have to stare at Eastern European men. And what do men in Eastern Europe even wear? Jeans? No. Yes? I don't know." And he's talking about like how he's not looking forward to going there because he's like, ugh. And he's like, "I'm so jealous of my sister going to Georgetown where she can be around a bunch of sexy black brothers or whatever, and I have to go to Eastern Europe and be around ugly white people." I mean, I don't know. Give me your feedback. What do you guys think? Do you believe, like, I know that there's a lot of arguments out there now that say you can't be racist against white people I still never really understood that logic, something about like power, because white people have power, you can't be racist against them. I have never seen any dictionary definition that said that racism has anything to do with power. But what do you guys think? Where do you stand in terms of freedom of speech? Where do you stand in terms of banning books? Where do you stand in terms of can anybody be racist? Is it racism when it's against any race or only against non-white people? Yeah. So would love to hear you guys' feedback on that. Oh, obviously, if I was just going to rate the book, it would be a 2-star. It wouldn't be a 1-star, even though I did find it very problematic. But like I said, the love story was done very well. Although I do have to say, okay, sorry, most of you guys can go away now. Now I'm just gonna go on a little rant about the book again. I do have to say though that at some point during the novel, I did kind of get annoyed about this relationship too, because both of the boys, they're teenagers in this book, they're so open about their sexuality. And like, and this book takes place in 1997, 1998 in Kosovo, a very, very conservative country, even to this day. And these boys were incredibly open about their sexuality, like holding hands and kissing in public, and everybody was okay with it. And I was like, although I like the idea of us reading and creating more books where the gay relationships are just normal, and it's not like I have to come out and it's a big drama and all this kind of stuff. It's just accepted as normal. And the fact that you're writing a historical book, that would have not been the way people would have picked that up in 1997, 1998 in Eastern Europe. So it actually to some point got annoying to me, because even the main bad guy villain, that main super bad Albanian guy, was just like, "Oh, I don't have any problem with you and your boyfriend," all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, if there was going to be any problem he was going to have, it was going to be with the fact that you're gay, you know? So, yeah, it is pretty problematic. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think on any of these topics. I'd love to hear back from you guys, and take care. Bye.